Well, Curtis Sliwa, not on anything. In fact, he took the subway to get here, turns down private security to run here. He is New York City's own, who's never lived anywhere else. Right, Curtis?
No, I'm the consummate New Yorker running here. As you see, Zoran is off in Uganda for 2 weeks. Andrew Cuomo is out in the Hamptons.
Raising money?
Right, and Eric Adams lives in Fort Lee, New Jersey, as we all know. I'm the only person who's born and raised in New York, and I'll probably die in New York.
Well, not for a while. The Gottis tried that, didn't they?
Yes, they did. 5 hollow point bullets didn't do the trick.
First up, just on the Hunter Biden situation, I mean, he goes out and he just eviscerated every Democrat. Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod, James Carville, Nancy Pelosi. Who the hell does George Clooney think he is? Do you think the family puts him up to this? Or do you think the guy just decides, I'm just going to just do what I want?
I think we've looked at the Biden family enough to know it is one big dysfunctional family where nobody seems to be in charge. And Hunter Biden, I don't know, he's probably still on some kind of substance. He just is so erratic. And now he's basically dropping dime on his daddy, saying he was on something all during his presidency, which is what many of us came to the conclusion of. He had cognitive problems. And yet here's Hunter Biden, who's lucky not to be in jail, running his mouth a mile a minute and doing more damage to the party that elevated his father to the presidency, the Democratic Party.
So, Curtis, you're running, right, in a 4-person race. In the last poll, I think it was a Harris poll.
Yeah.
You're within the margin of error. So it's Mamdani, Cuomo, you, and then Eric Adams. What is your path to victory?
Well, the path to victory is we're watching the self-destruction of the sitting mayor, Eric Adams. In fact, this morning, as I was on the subway, people were asking me that Eric Adams last night at about 12:05 in the morning was tweeting out, "It's going down. Meet me after school tomorrow." I hope if there are reporters listening out there, they follow up on this. This is one of the most bizarre tweets or statements ever made.
What does it mean?
Well, first off, there's no school. It's summertime.
Right. He should be out of school.
Right. I have no idea. He likes to hang out at the hookah lounge, and smoke on the hookah pipe. But this is beyond acceptable. I think what he has to do is, if he's going to be serious running for re-election, he's got to discard all of his corrupt cronies that he's brought back into his campaign. And he has to address this sanctuary city issue.
Yes.
Kristi Noem yesterday eviscerated him. And I'll tell you why. There are 3 candidates I'm running against, Zoran, Cuomo, and Adams. All of them are for sanctuary city status. I'm opposed to it. The mayor had an opportunity twice to put it up for a vote. It's called initiative and referendum. Every year there's initiative and referendums in local elections. Twice he chose not to. This was similar in 2023. The Chicago City Council would not permit it to be put up for a vote of the people of Chicago because the majority black vote would have voted to end sanctuary city status. I know New York City would have voted. The voters would have voted to end sanctuary city status. Eric Adams twice had the chance and wouldn't do it. He defends sanctuary city status. I'm the only candidate opposed to it.
Tell me about your take on what happened on Sunday with the federal agent being attacked right by the lake by 2 guys, illegal immigrants on a moped with lengthy rap sheets. What's your take on that, Curtis?
This is up in Washington Heights, Inwood, predominantly Dominican community. These were Dominican thugs who had already indicated as illegals that they were enemies of society. Notice, both of them. They had huge records, and they were being turned loose, not just here, but in other places. They were committing crimes. And they were on mopeds, and what they would do is drive around on the mopeds and just snatch phones, snatch jewelry, and oftentimes hit gunpoint. In this case, this agent was off duty, obviously in New York with a young lady, and he was forced to defend his life. They pulled a gun out, and they blasted him. This is happening all the time. And that's why ICE has to have, with impunity, the opportunity to get, as Donald Trump called them, all the bad hombres out of here. Gangbangers, drug dealers, sex traffickers, narco-terrorists. There are so many there that it takes a little bit of time to do the research, ICE, but eventually they're going to get their men and women, and we need to be assisting them in ridding them of our city because they become a menace to everybody.
I want you to hear this exchange, in case you missed it. This is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, and he, is taking a personal interest in New York. Congestion pricing, fix Penn Station, what's with the crime in the subways, right? Here's the exchange with Congressman Nadler.
Secretary Duffy, as recently as last week, you again attacked the MTA, claiming there's a surge in subway assaults and accusing the agency of withholding information. But many of your statements misrepresent the facts and ignore documentation already provided to your department. I want to address some of those claims directly. First, are you aware that major crime in the transit system, including assaults, is down 3% since last year and down 8% since 2019?
Well, I would say
That's a yes or no question.
well, no, that's wrong. The assaults that we've seen are up 60% with MTA in the system since 2019.
Why do you continue to ignore this and lie about this in your public comments?
Well, my question, why do you continue to lie about people being lit on fire in subways or pushed in front of trains? You should be fighting to make sure your subways are safe.
Our subways
You
are...
want people to ride subways. Let's make subways safe.
Reclaiming my time. Our subways are safe, and I gave you the statistics.
They're wrong.
What do you think, Curtis?
Well, first off, this is Gerald Nadler, who in the summer of George Floyd 2020 said Antifa was just a concept. Remember, Antifa broke my jaw while we were fighting them, protecting people in the streets of New York when Bill de Blasio ordered the police to stand back. It's not a concept. They're real. But Gerald Nadler doesn't take the subways. I take the subways every day.
He couldn't get down the stairs.
No, and the Secretary of Transportation is from New Jersey. So he's come into the city quite regularly.
And he worked at 48th and 6th.
Exactly. So it's not like he was from Arkansas or from Oregon. I had no idea the subways. Assaults are up. Crime is just out of control in the subways. It's not safe. It's the veins and arteries of the city we can never recover unless there's safety in the subways. And I'm the only candidate who would know exactly what to do because I campaign in the subways. What would you do? Well, number one, you have to get the police actually traveling on the trains. They're positioned at the turnstiles. They're positioned on the waiting platforms. They're not in the moving trains. That's where most of the action is taking place. You must remove the homeless. You must remove the emotionally disturbed. Get them the help they need. We spend all this money, $7 billion, on illegal aliens, and we're not spending money taking care of our own American homeless and emotionally disturbed. That's a sin. Shame on us as Americans. We should be taking care of our own.
Did de Blasio disband the homeless unit within the police department?
When he defunded the police department by $1 billion, the untold story, and thanks for bringing it up, Ryan, you remember there was a homeless outreach unit that I and the Guardian Angels used to work with. These were men and women cops who dedicated themselves. They go in and out.
They knew the names of everybody. They knew their problems, their medications.
They go in and out of the shelters. They knew the directors. They knew the security. Do you know the NYPD cannot go into either a migrant shelter or a normal shelter now unless there's a 911 call? So assuming you're walking a beat, excuse me, director, could I use the bathroom? You're not permitted in the shelter. It may cause post-traumatic shock syndrome to our clients. Imagine what you would feel like as a police officer. Migrant shelters and regular shelters, you're not even permitted to go inside unless there's a 911 call.
Where'd that rule come from?
It was de Blasio's rule, Cuomo's rule, and now Eric Adams' rule.
Why do you think Cuomo lost?
Because he mailed it in. Look at him. The last 3 weekends, he's been with his billionaire friends in the Hamptons. He spoke at a synagogue in the Hamptons, and he blamed Jews for him losing. He said, more than 50% of you voted for Zoran. That's ridiculous. You would never know how many Jews voted. They don't have that on the voting rolls. He needs to take culpability, but he's not ready for prime time. He's lost it. And remember, this is the guy, wherever I go, Brian, people say that's the guy with slapping fannies and killing grannies. He'll never get over that.
How much did he cost the city in legal fees and fines?
The state, Tom DiNapoli, Democratic state controller, said the bill is up to about $63 million from all the sexual harassment charges because the state has to defend him. He has qualified immunity like civil servants do. And guess who doesn't have qualified immunity because of Cuomo? Police officers. That's why they don't do interventions, because they can be personally sued. They're the only civil servants who can be personally sued for actions that they take on our behalf.
So why would you put yourself in danger and your family? You're making what, $35,000 when you start, or $55,000 when you start, and all of a sudden there's a domestic dispute going on, and thinking to myself, wow, I don't want to get sued by both these people.
Well, Zoran Mandami doesn't even want cops dealing with domestic disputes. I've dealt with so many in tandem with the cops and the Guardian Angels. He wants social workers to deal with it. Let me tell you this. if that were ever put into effect, women would die, children would die, and blood would be on Zorhan's hands.
We're going to take a short time out. Curtis, if people have to run from the radio right now and they want to support your candidacy, where do they go?
Sliwa for NYC.com. That's Sliwa for NYC.com.
Are there going to be debates, do you know?
Yes, there'll be two, one in September, one in October, and I can't wait.
So it's going to be the four of you or five of you? There's another...
There'll be five. A guy named Jim Walden. He's 1% Walden. But you know I'm going right at Zorhan, right at Cuomo, right at Adams, because they're for migrants voting and they're for sanctuary cities, and I will not forgive nor forget that they created Zorhan Mandami by failing us as governor and failing us as mayor.
He thinks he won already, doesn't he?
Oh, he's off in Uganda. He's having his... I guess he's calling it his honeymoon that he didn't have. Was that an arranged marriage? I mean, how come the wife is never out there? My wife, Nancy, is there with me everywhere, like yesterday when we were calling for no-kill shelters and putting animal abusers in jail. That's my wife right next to me. How come? Oh, that's right, Cuomo. Oh, Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a first lady. That should be Nancy Sliwa.
Lie about New York
Destination.
City.
You're lying. Don't call me a liar here.
I'm
This is
calling
the
you a
one-
liar because
this
you've
is the
lied
one-
continually.
This is the one area where you have to pay $9 every single day to access Manhattan. That doesn't
Not
exist
to act-
anywhere else.
Every single program where you have told highways is under the same
Why don't we
program.
fight for the people who can't afford to pay that pricing? Why shouldn't everyone have access to the city? And if you're going to force people into a subway, make sure it's safe. Very simple.
It's safe. I gave you the statistics.
I gave you the stats.
Well, your statistics are wrong.
So what'd you think about this? This is a New York battle taking place between Sean Duffy and Congressman Nadler, who's an embarrassment to the city, Curtis Sliwa.
I'm the only candidate opposed to congestion pricing. So the transportation secretary is correct. Donald Trump is correct, our president. And yet, you notice that Adams and Cuomo, who devised it, and Mandami are in favor of it. And all of your national audience, understand this. Congestion pricing in New York City now, they want to expand it to every major urban area north of the Mason-Dixon line. It's another tax, and it's a tax on the blue-collar working class.
You know what they say it is? It's to keep these cities green. There's too much gas going through the city. What's your feeling on that?
No, it's basically to offset fare evasion. People who are not paying their bus fare. That's why I laugh. Mondani says free bus fare. Half the people don't pay their bus fare to begin with. We're halfway there. 1/3 don't pay their subway fare. They lose $800 million because they won't enforce the fare. I am the only candidate who says we're going to have enforcement. You're going to pay your fare or you're going to get arrested.
So I know what you stand for. Give me your game plan, because you have Mondani, who's a Marxist socialist. You have Cuomo, who's a washed-up Democrat. And then you have Eric Adams, just overcoming an indictment and the support of Donald Trump, which is a negative. So what's your strategy to winning?
I'm the only Republican. And as I tell people, we have Republican values that the other three candidates don't. They're all Democrats. I start with close to 30% of the vote from the last time I lost with Eric Adams. Do the math. 4 candidates. If I start with 28 to 30%, I get a few more percentage points. Brian, you're talking to the mayor right here, and I have a special first-time independent line, Protect Animals, which a lot of people love. You know, the Pew Research studies.
But that's real with you.
Yes, it's real. I and my wife, Nancy, we live it. We rescue animals from the shelter who would be euthanized. We're going to have no-kill shelters and put animal abusers in jail. And believe it or not, people who voted for Harris and Trump, they can agree on that. A lot of people will never vote for a Republican, but they'll vote for me on the Protect the Animals line.
It's so interesting. So when you look at the vulnerability of Mondami, are you going to be the one to go at him? Or, for example, Adams is going to go after Cuomo. Are you going after Mandami, or are you going to go at them individually, collectively?
You have to go into the neighborhoods where Mandami is strong with the millennials and Gen Zers. Those are my followers. In fact, if you look at poll after poll, I get more independents than any other candidate. Generally, younger people do not sign up with a party any longer like our parents did or grandparents. They sign up as independents. That's the route to victory. So with Republicans and independents, I can become the next mayor, and some moderate Democrats and animal lovers. But you have to be in the same neighborhoods as Mondami. If you're not, you're sacrificing all these millennials and Gen Zers. Trump, in his previous election to get elected, went after the millennial and Gen Z males and did an enormously effective job through the RNC and Lara Trump, in getting them on board. Probably provided the margin for his popular victory vote and in the 7 battleground states.
So what do you do with the Republican Party? It's not nearly as strong as the Democratic Party in New York City.
No. And in fact, there are less and less Republicans because they're the ones moving to Florida, or unfortunately, they passed away.
Even Cuomo says he's moving to Florida.
Yes.
If he loses.
No, he's already planning his exit strategy. He's out of here. I preach you must improve, not move. If for some reason I lose, I'm not cutting and running. I'm going to be battling Mondami and the socialists to the day I die, because this is their crown jewel. They want to take the epicenter of capitalism. They want to turn it into a socialist enclave. Over my dead body. That ain't happening.
Have you talked to any of these banks that are just giving the Heisman to Mamdani, the bankers and the business people who don't want him here?
Oh, well, they claim they don't want him here, but they run hedge funds. They're hedging their bets, Brian. They're meeting with him back to as we speak.
Kurt, if people want to support you, where do they go?
Go to sliwafornyc.com. I will never forsake you, and I am not running to Florida. I'm going to fight for what I know is right and prove don't move.